Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, j-fallon, and thanks for listening. So I just wanted to clarify some things before I got into this episode. I'm going to talk about this New Zealand police officer. A big shout out to, now I've forgotten the username. Someone, I think it might have been a Karen Thorpe, I think, had put me onto this story about the New Zealand copper, and this is what I'm going to talk about today. Got himself in a bit of strife. Pretty interesting case. Anyway, before we get into that, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things that I've said. So I wanted to clarify my point, what I was trying to say about being stood down on pay. Now, the officer who'd been stood down from South Australia, he's been accused of domestic violence incidences and also using, trying to look up information and be able to use that information against other people. It's criminal behaviour. I believe that in those cases, if you're behaving in a criminal fashion outside of the work arena, well, then you shouldn't be stood down on pay. You should have to use your own sick leave or use your own holiday, rec leave, and this kind of thing. However, the other two officers who'd been, they were working. These ones, two Victorian police officers, have been charged with negligent manslaughter. Even though it's a very serious charge that they're facing, they were put in this situation because of their work. So they've gone there, and the only reason why they've had to confront this individual, whether they made mistakes or did the wrong thing, regardless, they were still working. They were performing their duties. Maybe they weren't doing it to the best of their abilities. Maybe they were doing it to the best of their abilities, and things just went wrong. My point is, if you're actually working and things go wrong, then yes, I believe police officers should be stood down with pay and being given all the full support from their union and everything because they were actually working. What I have a problem with is police officers like the South Australian one, like the Queensland police officer who was caught drink driving, all this kind of thing. Police whose behaviour is outside of work and they're behaving in a detrimental fashion towards the service, they're behaving sometimes in a criminal way, they shouldn't be stood down on pay. No, it's got nothing to do with your work. If you're silly enough to do things that are illegal or just, demonstrably wrong and you're going to be stood down because of your own private life, well, then you don't get paid. If you want to access funds, well, then you have to use up your own rec leave and this kind of thing. But if you're doing work and things go wrong, which is easy to happen, unfortunately, in policing, it can happen. You may just take your eye off the ball for a split second. Something goes wrong, but you're carrying out an action in the line of duty. Well, then you should be fully supported. Okay, and then if it's proven that it's your fault, well, then okay, then you can look at other actions of the police service, but. I don't believe that. I do believe you're innocent until proven guilty. And I do believe that if you are performing your duty as a police officer and things go wrong, well, then yes, stood down with pay. But if you're just a thug and a criminal and someone who likes to commit acts of domestic violence on your partner, well, then no, you don't deserve the help. You don't deserve the help from the union, that's for sure. You don't deserve support at all, in my opinion. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to clarify that my position on all of it. Former top cop Jevon McSkimming. I can't remember, I wish I could remember who it was. I think it was Karen Thorpe. When they wrote it in the title, McSkimming, I thought someone was having pulling my leg a bit. McSkimming, okay. So will not be charged after inquiry into sexual misconduct claims. Still being charged with other things, but not the sexual misconduct stuff. Former Deputy Police Commissioner Jevon McSkimming will not be charged. McSkimming, who's 52, is facing 8 charges of possessing objectionable publications, including child sexual exploitation and bestiality. Oh, yuck. material over a 4 year period. In November last year, McSkimming was placed on special leave as the Independent Police Conduct Authority investigated an allegation of sexual misconduct from a former non-sworn female police employee. The following month, police began a criminal investigation into that investigation. Now, see here, because he's been accused of sexual misconduct, and this, I'm assuming, is not in the performance of his duties, well, then I think, you go on leave, you get stood down, and you have to access your rec leave or something like that. You don't just get stood down on full pay. Anyway, unless it's going to be a really short time frame. So it was during this police investigation that the alleged objectionable material was found on his work devices. What the heck? A second criminal investigation was then launched, which led to McSkimming resigning in May and later being arrested on 8 representative charges of possessing objectionable publications, namely child sexual exploitation, bestiality material, or having reasonable cause to believe that the publication is objectionable. That's weird. The investigation concluded that the evidential test for prosecution had not been met, therefore no charges would be laid. The Solicitor General's prosecution guidelines 2025 require both evidential sufficiency and public interest thresholds to be met. In this case, the evidential test was not satisfied. Johnson said the investigation and decision not to charge were independently reviewed by King's counsel and peer reviewed by a Crown Law appointed barrister. The investigation was thorough. Anyway, McSkimming was arrested in relation to charges of possessing objectionable publications in Wellington. Okay, so McSkimming has been remanded on bail by Judge Tim Black without plea until his next appearance in November. In a statement, the Commissioner, Richard Chambers, said prosecution showed no one was above the law. Prosecution of McSkimming shows no member of the police is above the law, no matter how senior. Given the matter is still before the courts, can't comment, as they always say. The IPCA earlier announced it was investigating allegations of misconduct by McSkimming following a complaint by a member of the public. It is also conducting investigation into if there is any misconduct or neglect of duty by any other police officers or employee in responding to the allegations. So they're having a bit of a hunt to see why this hasn't come to light if someone else has hidden it, is what they're saying. The investigations were being given priority, but no time frame for their completion. McSkimming was one of the final 2 candidates for New Zealand's top cop job last year. Wow, with Chambers eventually appointed police commissioner. That's right. If I didn't say it before, McSkimming is actually a deputy commissioner. McSkimming was promoted to statutory deputy commissioner in 2023 based on the recommendation to then Prime Minister Chris Hipkins. Sure, he must be wrapped with that. Look, I just thought this case was worthwhile talking about, seeing what's going on there in New Zealand. I do like the way New Zealand, when they give details, when they talk about cases, they tend to give a lot more information than what Queensland police definitely give. They tend to give you the bare minimum, and all the police services in Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, they all give bare minimum. New Zealand seem to give a lot more information, but it does make you wonder how this chap got to such a high, I mean, the second highest level, I assume, in New Zealand as far as policing goes, and this is what he was all about. And it's hard to believe that someone could have these kind of accusations come out so late in his career. And yet nothing else has ever happened. He's been in the job since '96, and there's never been nothing else which has ever raised. No other red flags have ever popped up to McSkimming. I seriously doubt it. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. I just want to keep a track of this story. If anything, I just like saying McSkimming. Look, like I said at the start, I think if you're accused of doing things and it's outside of your work role, I don't believe you should be stood down on full pay. I think you should have to be using your rec leave, long service leave, this kind of thing. If you've been involved in criminal behavior, that's how I think it should go. Especially, it's one thing if you're under investigation and you're still able to work and there's a bit of a cloud over whether you might actually might actually be able to be charged or anything like this if it's just being investigated. But if you're being stood down and actually charged with something, I do believe you should be stood down and, yeah, not on full pay. If you want to be involved in criminal type behavior in your own private life, well, then you don't, in my opinion, you don't deserve the support of the government. You don't deserve the support of the union, and you shouldn't be continuing to be funded by the public purse. That's just my opinion. Anyway, my name's j-fallon. Thanks for listening.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire.